it was a system that wasn't designed for people that look like me to win or to thrive. It's plain and simple. And there's still people that don't look like me that would gladly not allow me to have those resources. They will gladly watch me die during the pandemic. They will gladly watch our trans sisters and brothers die during the pandemic. And there's so many people out there that will continue to complain about the people on the streets. But it's like, oh, okay, they're homeless. They need to figure it out. They need to get a job. But these humans can't get jobs if they don't have access to clean water, if they don't have access to clean clothes, if they don't have access to nutrition. The smallest thing, nutrition, having access to food is the basic right that people should have.
I'm Queen ShanShan, and this is a broadcast podcast. Welcome, broads. We are back. Yes, it's been a while. Shannon, Queen ShanShan is here, and I have an amazing new guest. We have Nikki Turner, the artist formerly known as Faith. Am I saying it right?
No, you are definitely right. It's definitely Nikki, the artist also known as Faith, or I Am Faith, or Faith Killz, the drag queen.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted just to say, broads, thank you for tuning in. It is now officially 2021. We had a earlier podcast, which was in January, just to recap 2020. So we're starting the year off with a new podcast, with a new amazing guest, and new hair.
Yes, God.
Yes, we are blue, true, honey. It took 5 months to find a new hairstylist because obviously California was still on lockdown, and we just, the hairstylists and salons opened up literally 3 weeks ago. So we're very, very excited that the hair is bright and tight. And she's bright, honey.
Yes, she is. We're here for her.
We are here for her. Found a new hairstylist in West Hollywood. His name is Haywood, and he has a salon. I had no idea. This is a salon I've probably walked past a million times in WeHo, going to the Abbey, going to Chapel, going to Pump, going to all the restaurants. And it's literally on Santa Monica, on the corner of Santa Monica and Robertson. And he's a Black African-American artist, hairstylist. And the salon is called Tress Salon. So if you guys are in LA, you need an amazing hairstylist, go to call Haywood at Tress Salon. He will hook you up, and his salon is gorgeous. So thanks so much, Mr. Haywood. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about you. How do I know you? So you and I met at BeautyCon LA literally less than 2 years ago. This is pre-COVID, when things were going right and fun and everything. And I was in line. I was in the VIP line. And literally, I think we connected downstairs before we actually entered the event, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were stunning. You're completely bald, gorgeous, wonderful person. And I was like, right on. We just totally meshed, and we got upstairs, checked in, and walked around the little kiosk, and we checked into the VIP section. And we just kikied from there. Had our drinks, had our cocktails. What did you say? We were actually
we're breaking bread.
We were breaking bread.
Oh yes, it's a term I like to use when you're like meeting someone and you're just like having like a really cute personal moment.
Yes.
And so breaking bread could be figuratively for like having coffee, having lunch, having dinner, just having an intimate moment with someone.
And that's what we did. And we were there for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. But it was so much fun hanging out with you. Sampled makeup, we drank, we ate, we saw people performing, we danced,
It was a really cute moment.
Lots of things have changed apparently since, 2019, so I'm hoping BeautyCon LA comes back or scheduled for a November, December event of this year. So I miss makeup. I miss talking about makeup. I miss shopping for makeup. I love beauty. That's the reason why we have this podcast, to talk about beauty, food, culture, and travel. So anyways, speaking of travel, let's talk about how you came to be, and you're originally from LA. You're a native LA, but we hear a Southern accent. We hear a Texas accent.
Yes, God.
Tell the brides how you came to be living in Texas.
So I was born here in Los Angeles, but my dad's side of the family was from Texas, like Houston, Galveston, Houston, Texas area. And so when I was just a young little child, around 3 years old, my mother wasn't in a place to care for me. So my dad's side of the family like just stepped in and offered to assist. And so my grandmother and my aunts was just like, oh, we can just take Nicholas to Texas and we'll take care of him for you until you like ready to be on your feet. Well, somehow they lost contact with one another for a very long time. To this day, we still don't have any truth to how they lost contact. But I didn't really see or talk to her, at least, or have any communication to her till I was like 13. And so then the relationship that we had then was basically she lives in California, I lived in Texas. I would go and visit like on the holidays and things of that nature, just for a few days, nothing too much. And yeah, I just spent most of my time in Texas.
So you had an estranged relationship with your mother during, the meatful years of growing up.
Correct. My father was there.
How was your father? How was your relationship with your father?
Well, he was there. I was his first child, but he had 5 sons after me.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I was living with my grandmother.
Oh, boys. Wow.
At the time. And so I didn't really live with him until I was in high school. High school. Yeah.
Mhm.
When I went to high school, that's when I first started living with him. And that was for like, through my 4 years of high school. And so, I mean, he did his own thing, basically. So I feel like I kind of like learned on my own through like what I saw, what I felt, and the things I interpret life to be. And so experiences, with him, was always like wanted to be more, but I feel like he was always there to be like, to discipline me whenever he felt that it was needed. Like if I
But
was doing
not to
something.
support, not to, do you feel that you
I mean,
the actual love of a father when you,
um, I do think I had genuine love from him, but I feel like him just as a human, I felt like he had so much going on in his own personal life that it could be difficult for a person to have all these children and then care for them and also run his own business. It can be overwhelming for a person. So looking back at it, I have a lot of compassion for him just doing his best with what he had. But then I was definitely felt very like neglected and felt like very
right.
like why aren't you here more? Why don't you do more? But now I'm very much like, I understand you just, you were trying to do your best, with your own personality and things that you're dealing with. So.
And what was it like being raised by your grandmother? Was she supportive and you transitioning as well since you're getting older?
Well, so like anything that has to do with like our community of the LGBTQ community, that wasn't anything that was like an association to me in my mind and in my family for a very long time. So it really, like, I literally was just having a normal childhood like any other child. So. Mhm.
Okay, but in your bio, you realize that when you're getting more into teenagers, that you realize that you were gay.
I did as I got older, and when I was in
Yeah,
high school, I
in
did
high
notice
school.
that I did notice that I had the same attraction to what someone would say is a man, and also in terms of what society said I was a man. So I guess
Yes.
then they gave it a definition and called it a homosexual. So then, okay, then I was like, okay, I guess that's what I am.
That's what you're labeled at that time, right? And so what was it like being in Texas, Black man, gay, and this is a where you said it was Galveston area, right?
Yeah, I wasn't out.
You weren't out at all. So you were chill, but were you feminine?
That I think I was always naturally effeminate.
Yeah.
I don't think that I purposely was trying to be masculine. But I also don't think that I was trying to be overly feminine
Right.
either.
Trying to keep it on the wraps because
I was just trying to live.
you're just trying to live, just trying to live.
Yeah, I really
Did,
didn't think
did
much
you deal
about
with
it.
a lot of bullying, a lot of
Of-
people messing with you?
Unfortunately, yes. There were days where I like ran home from school early because I knew that like somebody was gonna try to fight me,
Wow.
or or there was one time when I like shaved my head and like somebody in the classroom like literally like hit the back of my head so hard that it like stung for like 15 minutes.
Mm.
But you know, it's whatever. I've also realized something, that they crucified Jesus, so none of us are going to be exempt from the chaos and the crazy that we must endure. No, none of us are deserving of it,
No
but
one's deserving of that torture and bulliness at all. But how did you cope with it? By just, did you go to, did you have the friends? Did you have the grandmother? What did you do to cope with that pain?
I didn't really talk much about that kind of stuff then.
Mm.
I just powered through
You just
most
powered
of it.
through.
Hmm.
So as a teenager, a young man, now you decided to enlist yourself into the Navy.
Well, I was staying with, so I gave it, since I never really lived with my biological mother for ever, like for long periods of time. So after high school, I decided to just give it a shot. Well, I went and did that, but because my mother literally had like a house full of people, and I was working two jobs, and it just seemed to be overwhelming, and the relationship that we had wasn't as pleasant as I wanted it to be. So I knew that I didn't want to go back to Texas. So coincidentally, a Marine recruiter just happened to like be passing by and see me and my cousin. They offered their card. I went over, I spoke to them. They didn't have what I wanted. So then I went over and saw the Navy the next day. I took a ASVAB test, saw what jobs I
What is
qualified
that?
for. It's an advanced placement, military exam that tests your knowledge on different subjects.
Okay.
Hmm.
And it decided you felt that
That
was,
based off of those scores, I qualified to I would do well. The likelihood of me doing well in the medical field was likely, so that was one of the fields that they offered to me,
wow.
and so I decided to join as a hospital corpsman
Okay. In the Navy.
in the Navy.
In the Navy. And how long were you enlisted?
About 4 years.
Okay, so you did the whole 4-year stint.
It was actually 5 years, but I got out early because
Okay.
I just couldn't deal with, the military life anymore.
And was that another challenge of trying to cope with your sexuality, knowing who you are, as well as trying to, I noticed in your bio that that back in the day, that was the don't ask, don't tell policy in the military. You can be gay, but don't tell anybody, right? So
Mhm.
how are you able to cope with, again, the probably malicious bullying, you got a bunch of guys in a room and then in the barracks, whatever you want to call it, on a ship for months at a time, dealing with that, and I'm sure, did you hook up with many of them as well? Was there any hookups on the boat?
I mean, a lot of that stuff happens in and off the boat, of course.
Yeah,
But I think that for me, it was about like just I wanted to work, but I also felt like there was like all these like internal obligations to to perform well because I'm a person of color, but also fight the fact that I was an effeminate person. So it was
right,
like, so then you're in a hyper masculine environment.
right.
So you really want to try to be mindful of that. And so I did make do with what I had, but I found love in just going out to sea. Like going out to sea was really lovely for me because it was very peaceful to like look at the ocean, and things of that nature when we're out. And it was just it allowed a lot of time for me to just like be at peace with the world and really enjoy what was happening and going to these different like ports and stuff.
One of my passions is traveling. So with the military, especially on the Navy, you get to travel all over the world. What was your favorite destinations that you visited in the world?
I really enjoyed Hong Kong. That was really lovely. I felt that Greece was nice to go to. It was like a little island called
Yes.
Seychelles. Dubai, Singapore was lovely and
Isn't it
clean.
amazing?
Oh my goodness,
Amazing.
it
I
literally
know
looks.
Singapore is wonderful. I was there 2000, I was there 3 years. What's this, 2021? I was there in 2017 for New Year
Mm,
in Singapore. And I was just enthralled at how immaculate that city is. And very kind people, lots of, and very diverse too. You have the Asian population, the Indian population, you have the Muslim population there, you have all sorts of other diverse nationalities there. So I was really impressed. And, pre-COVID 2019, I was in Hong Kong as well. And I absolutely loved that country. It was wonderful. People there were very, very kind. So I cannot wait to go back to Asia. Asia is still closed to us Americans here to travel during COVID. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's interesting that you enjoyed Singapore and Hong Kong. What other places did you like to go visit?
Bahrain was nice,
Mhm.
in the Middle East,
Yes.
And to go shopping at like in the afternoon, like where things didn't open until 5,
Yeah.
was kind of different to feel,
Hmm.
But it was nice. It
It
was
was
like
nice.
traveling was really good. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that. I could
Yeah.
do that like for months on end.
I can do that for months on end. Like that, I could literally just get on a plane right now and just like buy and leave all my troubles behind. That's my alcohol. That's my drug of choice is traveling. It's so funny that you have a diverse background in fashion design because I think that's one of the things that you and I talked about when we first met 2 years ago, that I graduated from FIDM as well. My degree was fashion design and your degree was in visual communications, right? When did you graduate?
Oh my gosh, she's so funny. Oh my god. Well, I mean, I learned a lot being at that school, and so it's so interesting how I learned so much, and like sometimes I feel like I may have forgotten a lot of things, because I haven't. But it's like when you think about it, it's like we all have all the tools we need to do everything that we desire, you
Right.
know. And so we just have to like look into that. Like I have a background in fashion, I have a background in hospitality, I have a background in visual communications.
So let's get into who Nikki was and who Faith is. Your life has been transformative, and you came out as gay when you were younger, and then over the years you've you've obviously discovered yourself as a different type of person, and you discovered, or I should say identify at that time as trans, right?
At one point in time.
At one point in time, and now you identify as
Non-binary
non-binary.
from a trans
So
experience.
from a trans experience. So I was at a sexual harassment meeting yesterday, and there were the terms that I was learning was still new to me, and I pride myself as being incredibly open to all genders, all identities. I'm very LGBTQ plus accepting. I've always have been in my life, but I've always I may have said things that are ignorant and I didn't mean to because it was a naive or ignorant thing. So if you can tell the audience, tell the broads, in your opinion, what is the difference between, I'm cis, I'm considered cisgender. I am a woman, I identify with a female, I have female parts. And it has nothing to do with my sexuality, even though I'm attracted to men, I'm a straight woman, but I identify as a female. At a time you identified as transgender. Explain to, in your words, what does transgender mean to you, and if you can, how did you transform from transgender to non-binary?
So for me, my own personal experience of being transgender meant that I did not identify with the gender that was given to me on my birth certificate, and that I wanted to do the necessary steps to align what I felt in the inside on the outside. So it's a form of transformative physical changes that would align what I felt would be matching my gender. And so through that experience of hormone replacement therapy, I realized that there was a high level of uncomfortability that I felt as I was progressing in the hormonal changes that was happening. But also, I want to acknowledge the fact that through those years of me on hormone replacement therapy was also the time when I was struggling with a meth addiction. So
Mm,
having that and trying to be on hormones honestly, they counterintuitive with one
Right.
another. So they don't, so I honestly, when you really think about it, it was like I was going through so many hormonal, so many changes, and battling my own substance abuse and battling being homeless and battling trying to like, work because I'm a person of color who wants to work, but also want to be self-sufficient. And
Why were you homeless?
so I
How did that happen?
So when I was staying in my own apartment, I had my own like SRO, which is called a single room occupancy. And at that time I had Section 8 as well. So my rent wasn't even that expensive. But mentally I wasn't connected to like the responsibilities and that I needed to do. Like I purposely or actually indirectly chose not to take care of responsibilities because I didn't like where I was living at. I didn't like being on Section 8. I didn't like that there was times where my place was infested with roaches. I didn't like how where I was staying at, it was only seen as a place to give people home that are homeless a place to live. So I felt ostracized from the community that, do you live here? Where I would always get is like, oh, is this a place for the homeless? Well, yeah, people that were once homeless now have a house, and so like constantly hearing that and being rejected for that, it was just like a whole mix of things,
And that was here in Los Angeles.
all in here in Los Angeles. Yes.
Okay. So how long were you homeless? Were you literally living on the streets?
I wasn't literally living on the streets. I mean, I did have my moments of that where I would like not have somewhere to live because I was always like either at like a sex club for hours on end, and then I would leave there and go to work and then leave work and go back to the sex club. And it was like I was living like a double life. I felt like in the daytime I was very expressing, very female, and then at nighttime I would express male expression where I could like, pretty much do anything. And so it was just like this underground world, of just sex and drugs and and promiscuous.
I also noticed that alcoholism as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, cocktailing was always something that I like struggled with. But it's like I always try to like, oh, if I'm going over on the deep end, then I'll like, try to will it back. I've been through variations of outpatient treatment centers, never really even though I felt like there was times where I really needed inpatient treatment, I just never did it because I was always trying to be in control of my own narrative. I felt like if I was to do that, go into inpatient treatment, that it was going to like almost like put a target on my back to the world, in a sense of like when people say that they're like sober, it's like almost like everyone's watching you even harder because they're like, oh my God, like we got to make sure that you don't drink. Yeah, like, and God forbid you want to like all of a sudden you decide you want to have a drink, and then people are trying to like, then it turns into this huge thing of like everyone's trying to convince you to no, stay sober, like don't do it, like da 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 da. Or if you do drink, then you're ostracized from the sober community. There's a possibility that you could be ostracized from the sober community for that. So I also knew for myself that no matter how much rehab one would do, I had to just make peace with the trauma and then not allow my coping skills be to use substances.
How did you get out of let's go back a few minutes, sex clubs? That was something that happened in LA that helped pay the bills. Were you getting paid was it
Oh no, girl.
What? Just as like swing parties, sex clubs, sex parties.
Oh yeah, it was just recreational.
It was recreational.
No coins were involved, although they should have been for the amount of performing I was doing.
Okay. I come from a background where having that type of lifestyle is looked down upon. So, excuse me if I'm using, words but it wasn't encouraging. That lifestyle wasn't an encouraging lifestyle because you dealt with drugs and promiscuity and all these other things. And how did you feel about yourself though? There was probably amazing fun times you had, but then going home and being homeless and how did you face the day?
Well, I mean, I was usually probably coming down from whatever high I had. But I also had like laser focus. I was very much into focusing on, I really loved work. I loved working at Equinox at the time. And it literally, I was like the bitch to work for you. Like
Okay.
I worked like 70 hours. Like
Wow.
I feel like my reputation at Equinox was pretty sickening. Like despite my struggles, like I literally was able to leave my troubles at home or on the streets or in the bathhouse or whatnot. And come there and focus on other humans. Like I'm
Mhm.
very good. I love customer service and I love like making people feel amazing about themselves because it's like, you know, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And
Correct.
so
Correct.
I just I pride myself on that. And I know that there's people out there that I may not have given great experiences to, and my apologies are to you. Um, but I think that I know deep down that I have good intentions, and I just I want us all to have the opportunities and the access to resources for us to live our own truth, no matter how much our truths change.
Mhm.
We're deserving of that. And so in my experience, in my trans experience, I I at first, when I started hormone replacement therapy, I was like, oh my God, I didn't really want to tell anybody I was on hormones because I felt like it would almost be like, oh my God, this is what I have to do. I have to commit to this.
And it's
Uh,
expensive. Insurance wasn't paying for those injections. That's like,
well, for me, it was because I was in the military. So the veterans, so
oh,
the VA pays for all of that.
wow. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Because I thought with the VA and military health care, because that be for them still considered a choice for you to do that. It wasn't
Like elective surgery or something.
correct, like elective surgery.
No, it
If you would
was
have gotten reassignment surgery, would they have paid for that?
will never know.
Hmm.
Never know. But I'm definitely somebody who's like all or nothing. So my intentions when I was on hormone replacement therapy was very that to eventually do that. And that's what I thought, all trans people wanted to do was to do everything.
That's what I
But
thought. That's what I thought.
but I found out very, very much that that is not everyone's intentions. And some people just want certain things done and then they're completely content with that. And I think that's where I became extremely comfortable with myself. Whereas I feel like I have more access. Like it's a lot more liberating to be able to express female and to express male at any given moment, based off of how I'm feeling and how I want to express myself for the day, the moment, the hour, and the minute.
Is that where the non-binary comes in?
Mm-hmm. And so with
Can you give us a definition, your definition of what we're getting to that point now. You're past the transgender point of your life. Now you are identifying as non-binary. What does that actually mean?
Well, to me, non-binary means that either I go through these phases of expressing that I feel like there's no relation to either gender, or then there's times where there's a formation, a blending of both genders. So non-binary to me could be either of the two, whereas a blending of both genders and also not associating with either of the genders.
Okay, and where you are at this point in your life.
Correct. That doesn't mean that later on down in life, I may just decide, oh, you know what? Maybe I want to get work done. But that doesn't mean that I will always have a trans experience. I will always be part of the trans community. I will always be part of the cisgender community. I will always be part of the non-binary community. I am the embodiment of everything. So where I'm at in my life is very much that. It's like, I am Faith. Faith is me. Faith is you. We are a faith together. And it's mainly because faith is a foundation, a spiritual foundation of a belief of something when we don't have physical evidence of. And I have unshakable faith. Yes, at times I'm sensitive. Yes, at times I cry because I'm human and I have emotions and I have feelings. But that doesn't mean that I don't constantly believe in myself and believe in the work that I'm capable of doing.
What advice do you give to parents today who are dealing with these issues with their children? There was this amazing HBO documentary I saw 4 or 5 months ago, and I should have wrote the name of the title of the documentary, but it had a traverse journey of these young kids, and they were like in their 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they identified as trans. And then the documentary spans the last 10 years of their life into teenagehood. And, one continues the journey of two of them continue the journey of transgender. One started to revert back to his original gender as a male. And then there was another individual who she was really with him. She was on Time magazine, she was everything. And she just didn't want the limelight, but she still identifies as trans. So it talked about the journeys of the hardships that the parents went through, the judging, the acceptance of their children, loving their children, the children loving their parents, knowing that the parents were having a hard time. And that's really interesting about the whole children LGBT community, is that these children are so smart. They're so smart because they understand that their parents don't get it. Some of the parents get it, some parents are very loving. So what advice do you give to parents in this day and age too, when they realize that their children have come out to them, either they're gay, they're transgender, non-binary, mom, this is who I am. What advice do you give to parents?
The first thing that I would say to them is to give them an enormous amount of compassion, because it takes a lot of courage to express how you feel about yourself in a world that is always giving you images that you are not supposed to be who you are, or that who you are is somehow wrong or incorrect to live your own personal truth. And that it's about showing so much love and trying to understand something that both of you are living in real time. People have to realize something, that when people come out, we're living this in real time. People tend to almost think like, why didn't you tell me this? And it almost comes from a place of selfishness from some individuals, because it's like, oh, what about the parents? What do you think? How do you think that's going to make them feel? But people don't seem to understand something, is that the humans that are coming into this form of enlightenment, as I call it, because when we're children, we're enlightened to know that we are human and we have these body parts and these hands and feet and these feet. Then we grow older and we and even when they're young, they could also have this level of enlightenment of knowing and understanding what trans or non-binary means. These are stages of enlightenment. That's what they are, actually. In my mind, they're levels of enlightenment, and people should look at life as such, because you are enlightened, because what it is that you are like, oh my God, this is what I feel. Okay, now you're trying to figure out, okay, what is this feeling? So then it's like, then you want to ask, or you want to talk to people, especially the people that created you. They're the first two humans that you literally want to discuss this with, but there's a high level of fear, because when this happens, there's a lot of abuse that happens. There's potential chance of abandonment that happens. There's the potential chance of resentment that could happen. Rejection from the parents to the children. And then it's like, if the two humans that created you are rejecting you, then that will instill, almost be like a telltale sign of like what your future could possibly look like for them.
Absolutely. It can destroy an individual, a child, because you brought up such a good point. The children look up to two people when they're born, the parents, two people.
Because
they want to impress them, they want to please them, they want to love them, they want that love back. And for the parents who reject that side of them, that truth is devastating to a lot of people. And unfortunately, I know many friends who are ostracized by their parents to this day, are not accepted in their family because they are the way that they want it to be, the way that they express to be. And so they, you guys use the LGBT community uses the word family in a different way, because this is a family that you choose to be a part of. We can't choose to be born to certain people, but in the LGBT community, you can choose your family, you can choose your friends, the ones that accept you, and that's one thing that I respect about the LGBT community, is that, we all judge, trust. We judge the minute we walk in the store, we judge what that person's wearing, what kind of mask that person's wearing, what if that person is wearing a mask. We judge immediately, but it is the community that accepts us. That's important. And if you can't find it in your family, you're going to go somewhere else that does that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So good advice, for that, because one thing is that, I always say love is love is love is love. And it's so true. And I have a lot of friends with children, and I see the path that the children are going to. And of course, I'm not going to say anything until they come to me, but I see the children act a certain way, and they're nervous to tell their parents who they really are because they're afraid of that rejection. That's just sad. So just wanted to get your opinion on that.
I just want to add something
Yes.
to a lot of people out there that I know are possibly struggling with acceptance, or maybe even, having difficulties trying to talk to their parents about who they are, whether they're young or old, and battling with who they are in this level of enlightenment. Just please have compassion for yourself, and also understand that you were all created purposefully, distinctively, and designed by a higher source for a reason. And that's what allows us to have this diverse of humans on this earth, because we need it and we deserve it.
So while on lockdown, you've discovered this new power. Well, not new, it's probably just always been ingrained with you because, like you said, with customer service, you like to help people, you want to serve the community. And I think with the COVID, you've been able to have this new power of resourcefulness. So what you reached out to me because you wanted to tell the world about this new fundraising aspect that you're trying to build. And it's pretty exciting because you got some big wigs helping you. So explain to the broads what is on the horizons for Faith.
So
and the acronym of Faith.
Oh, so when I was when we were doing the first lockdown, I did it's called 21 Days of Abundance, where it's like, where you do like a meditation every day, there's homework every day, and there is a mantra that you must do every day as well for 21 days. And you do it with a group, or you can do it by yourself. But on the third day particularly is when you had to identify this level of abundance of how you're going to acquire it. And so you have to visualize it. You have to write it down, and like whether it's like bags of money and like where is it going to come from. And so some of the things that I thought about was I knew that the trans queer community was something that I was living in during that time I was doing this 21 Days of Abundance. So I knew that was a group of individuals that I felt was the most marginalized. So I was like, okay, how can I help them? Because the other people in our community, like for us, like gay men, so to speak, they have a lot of help. And so I had already thought about like what are the different things that I wanted. So it was like an online e-commerce site, and to have my own modern version Goodwill, which is called Faithlynn's Closet. I wanted to have an empowerment workshop, which was called Black Power on the Road to Becoming an Inspirational Figure. I also wanted to create some type of housing situation, which was called F.A.I.T.H, which stands for Facilitating Access into Transformative Housing, which basically is just going to be a supportive services organization that provides short-term housing and emergency shelter, as well as food, transportation, mental health, and case management services. And so with that, I knew that there was a lot of other organizations out there that was already doing that. But I knew that from field work, I would meet random trans women and they would be like, oh, I had a bad experience here. I had a bad experience here. And I was just telling myself, I'm like, I know that if I ever had my own organization, there was less likely for them to have a bad experience with us, only because I would pride myself on creating a foundation of great customer service and making sure that people all feel seen, heard, and listened to.
You lived it. You lived it.
I did.
You're a drug addict. You overcame. You worked. You got yourself clean. You were able to change the way of life. And so you want a nonprofit organization that can help turn around the people that you know that are hurting. Because let's be honest, Black trans women are one of the most pinpointed people in the United States that are killed and murdered overnight for any reason. This is the reason why we also created, Black trans people lives, matter as well, just like Black Lives Matter. So is a pandemic of another way of these people being killed because of them being on the streets or being homeless or being drug addicts, whatever. They didn't have a way out, so they turned to a different corner. So how are you able to facilitate this new goal for 2021?
So I have acquired 2 board members to help facilitate to create a nonprofit. So you need a minimum of 3 board members to start a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is called Helping Faith. So it's helping facilitate access into transformative housing. And so because I had already started a fundraiser to particularly raise money for this, the fundraiser that I have currently, it was mainly to house 100 humans in hotels for 3 months with said services. Yes, it's a huge and it was an ambitious goal. I feel very successful just because I've gotten $5,000 towards that goal. But there's also an understanding that because this goal was like personalized and not through a nonprofit, that I personally would have a large amount of taxes to have to pay for, right, just because I wanted to have a good deed, just because I want to do good in the world. And so I think that that's why it's important for me to have a nonprofit, because I shouldn't have to go in debt because I want to help others. And so once our status is acknowledged by the IRS, then we would be able to give tax write-offs to the humans that want to donate for us. So I don't feel, at this moment that, oh my God, we really need the $5 million. Yes, we do, but I don't want to have $300,000 in debt because I want to do well.
It's interesting that you keep saying humans. You're not saying transgender, you're not saying non-binary, you're not saying gay, you're not saying lesbian. Why are you using the word humans?
Because that's what we are. We are at our core. This is how we are relatable to each other. People, I get that people want to feel like a sense of identity and want to express that, and we all want to have a sense of belonging and to be a part of a subgroup. But what I've seen is that separating ourselves, in the forms of getting access and trying to figure out who's getting the most access, then that I can understand. And so we can try to reallocate where our resources are going. To that degree, I understand. But the reality of it is we're all humans. We all are deserving of basic necessities, basic needs.
Absolutely.
We all have basic rights that should be given to all of us. But the real reality of it is it was a system that wasn't designed for people that look like me to win or to thrive. It's plain and simple. And there's still people that don't look like me that would gladly not allow me to have those resources. They will gladly watch me die during the pandemic. They will gladly watch our trans sisters and brothers die during the pandemic. And there's so many people out there that will continue to complain about the people on the streets. But it's like, oh, okay, they're homeless. They need to figure it out. They need to get a job. But these humans can't get jobs if they don't have access to clean water, if they don't have access to clean clothes, if they don't have access to nutrition. The smallest thing, nutrition, having access to food is the basic right that people should have. When you can't eat, you can't think clearly. It actually turns into a form of survival because your body starts to eat itself, and then your body starts to hurt. And who would want somebody to be tortured in that way? Because that's really what it is. It's torture. Because what it is, it's a form of suffocation. Because then it's like, okay, do I steal to eat? Do I ask? And then when you're asking people, and then they're like, oh, I don't carry cash. People be literally purposely not carrying cash so they can just say that they don't have cash when they know damn well they need to carry cash on them just for the sake of homeless people. People should carry cash just so they can be able to help. Because I feel like there's so many people out there that are sitting on all this endless amounts of money and resources.
They are. They are.
And they choose not to help.
They are. I mean, it goes on to the argument of why can't you get yourself cleaned? Why can't you get yourself a job? Why can't you go to McDonald's and find an application? But there's so much more to that. It's because, there's a lot of mental illness, in the homeless community. And when you are dealing with schizophrenia, when you're dealing with bipolar, when you're dealing with being abused and physically, emotionally abused in the household, or what landed you on the streets, to get yourself to a point to get cleaned up takes a lot more than just saying, I'm going to wake up and find a job. It's not that easy to a lot of people. Now, I've never been homeless, so I can't speak on that. I come from middle America families. We always had means, but my parents, they were broke. My parents, both my parents grew up very, very poor, very poor. Food stamps, EBT, whatever you want to call it back in the day. My mom said she used to have, mustard sandwiches, but my grandmother always made sure that the kids were fed and cleaned and washed. But there's people who are in dire situations that will never ever have that. And so when we look at LA's population, Skid Row is growing and being moved more east and more off the streets because they're regentrification of that area downtown even more than ever. What do you do? How do you help? And then you have the argument, Faith, that some of the homeless don't want to be helped. Some people want to stay homeless. Some people want to stay in the drugs, stay in the alcohol, not go get mental help. There's that argument too. So how do you differentiate that argument where you have people who say they want help and people who just don't?
I think for me, it's like, it's about having compassion and understanding that the struggle is real, and I think that if someone is like offering, they're like, hey, I'm willing to give it another shot, then they should be given that opportunity, and if they fail and then you give them another shot, I honestly think that people should just be given unlimited shots when it comes to chances when it comes to this, because battling substance abuse is one of the hardest things in the world, I believe. And it can be done. Many people over the years have done it and been able to shake the addictions, so we know that it can be done, but you have to treat these people with a level of compassion because they're dealing with a lot. And I think that sometimes people just are not that empathetic. Could be many reasons why they're not empathetic, because maybe they have their own personal disorder where they can't feel emotions, or they don't know how to have empathy for another person. So people have to have compassion in that regard for those individuals.
Where do you find the compassion if it's not there? Because we all want compassion, but you also need money. You need money. If you want to have a house that houses 12 people and gives them medical care, job placement opportunities, case management, their scripts, you got to find compassion with a check, with $100 bill on top.
I agree, sister. I think that what it is like, I am extremely overwhelmed because I am an able-bodied citizen who literally just wanted to do more for the community in the midst of a pandemic. And then when you're out there, it's about listening to people, and you don't want to just give to them. You actually want to know their story. Then I felt compelled and want to know their story. Then you find out their story. You're like, oh my God, how can I help you?
Yeah. So I one thing about me is that if I'm going to give you $100, not you, particularly, but you as a charity, I want to make sure that money is going to charity. It ain't going into John's pocket for, his car and his bills and everything. And I know as a nonprofit organization, that's where a lot of the bad reputations come out for nonprofit organizations, that they're actually pocketing it and feeding their bellies, feeding their children. They're buying houses and planes and cars and all this stuff. How do we know that your organization is going to truly put those people off the streets into this housing that you want to propose?
To be honest with you, it's about just doing, and like you talking to these humans, the humans that I've been helping. Let them tell you their experience. Let them tell you what we've been experiencing together as a collective. For this particular, like for what I've been doing since November, it's been the Comforting the Community project. And what's been happening is that I would buy the items and I would create these kits and I would Uber there and I would go take these kids. I would take them food. I would wake up and I would cook food here and and take it to them, to those that I can. I even felt like if I didn't have my own personal money, if I was to eat something like from any of that, I felt bad, so it's like, my sole purpose is to make sure that I do for them and to do for them as much as I can. The sole purpose was to house Bree and Brian. And then in the midst of that, we purchase an RV and then we get scammed in the process. And then it's like, because I felt responsible for, if indirectly, getting us scammed because not doing my due diligence,
Who scammed you? The RV people or the people who needed the help?
No, the RV people. So the person who who I bought the RV from, she was also the person who renovated the RV, and everything was going well until the time she needed to deliver the RV, because the RV was being renovated on the property where I purchased it from, because that was a space that could allow the working of the RV there. So there was nothing in my mind or my intuition to think that it wasn't going to go as planned. And so behind the scenes, I felt responsible. So I knew that I needed to do anything in my power to keep Bree and Brian housed up, whether it's me trying to use my own financial resources to help facilitate it, because I have to recoup that from what they did, and I just didn't want to make other people feel responsible, like they needed to help, recoup that money.
These Bree and Brian are two transgender.
No, Bree and Brian is a Black trans woman and her brother, and her biological brother.
Okay.
And so
they were homeless and they needed a place to stay.
They've been homeless and in the foster care system since they were 6 and 9 years old.
Wow.
And so they both share the same mother, but they have different fathers. They lost their mother. They lost their mother a long time ago, and so it's basically just been them. And so I felt compelled by their story and wanted to help them.
How old are they?
26 and 29.
Okay, so they're adults.
But there is no resources for them.
Why is there no resources there? Okay, so I'm coming at you now.
No, come.
Why are there resources? They're grown people. Why can't get their shit together?
For as Brian's situation, to be honest with you, I think it could possibly be mental illness, and it could be just slight laziness, but he is also somebody whom has graduated from college and had jobs before. So, can be somebody whom was so used to still being homeless and then not having somebody believe in them, maybe there was no motivation to get out of his situation, or having somebody help them get out their situation. And for his sister, she can barely articulate herself. She can barely read. It's just not, she didn't graduate high school. She doesn't have a GED. She never had a job. You know what I mean? So it's just like she can barely read an application, to fill out an application.
And why hasn't she tried to find help to get educated or get those resources? Because there's all sorts of programs out there that can help people who are illiterate. I mean, has she tried to do that on her own?
Well, I did adopt that responsibility, but I think that because the challenges that we had with each other, with trying to get her to go to doctor's appointments and her still battling the street life, it didn't warrant us to create that opportunity. But it also could have been, I don't want to continue to blame myself for everything that didn't go right by them. But I feel like maybe I didn't show enough initiative or, demanding. But at the same time, the things that I experienced with them it was very aggressiveness, where it's like there was times where she would be very much like, I'm not going, like screaming off the top of her lungs, and it's like, I'm not going to like an appointment, for an example.
And that's where I see the argument where, why should people help when they don't want to help themselves?
I agree.
Why should I help John or Bryn or their individuals if they don't want to get out of help? Because I feel that's an argument that you're going to get more if I'm paying $100 or $200 for this particular facility or this help. And especially when you start getting big, Faith, that you might want to start getting monthly subscriptions, monthly donations from people. They're going to want to see a change in these people. And if you acquire these individuals and they really don't want help, then where does the motivation of your donations go to, or donators come from?
I think for me, it's just that I just continue to offer a high level of compassion. I think that no matter how many times people fail, I think they are very deserving of another opportunity. I think that from when I'm speaking to Bree, I know that she has spoken and articulated herself in a way that I know I'm struggling with what I'm struggling with, but like she doesn't have anybody, and it's like, why forsake her? Because I know that she wants this. I've learned that people like them, they need to be busy. So you need to give them something to do. She wants to do hair. So we're already working on facilitating that. So new news to the world is that Bree, Brian, and the other girl that people may know of is Nina. They all three of them have just signed papers with a landlord to move in on April 1st. So that is like a
That's
blessing
awesome.
in itself,
That's
because
awesome.
we've come so far, and it's such a blessing. But we ain't got the keys yet. We ain't got the keys yet, but I feel very confident that come April 1st, because we submitted the paperwork to their DPSS worker, which is what we needed to do. We did that today. So
Good.
and it's well beyond way before the 10th of the month. So that means that they're guaranteed to get their check from the state on April
Excellent.
1st for
And look
April
what you've
1st.
done. So you've already helped 3 individuals, and you don't even have, the resources yet to really do what you want to do. So this is a very amazing effort that you're starting, Faith. So congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you. It's just thank you. It's really important to just I get that when people have these notions, it's like, why we want to help them, because they're not really helping themselves. But the reality of it is they really are helping themselves, because they have chosen to continue to work with me. They can easily be like, you know what, I don't want your help, you know what, let me be. But they have not given that. And so, because if I ask them, I'm like, so do you want me to stop helping you? Or do you want me to
That's a good question. Yeah.
Oh no, I ask. I don't worry, honey, because trust and believe. I go through a lot of ups and downs and a lot
I'm
of stress with these
sure.
humans who are battling
I'm
so many things.
sure.
And then it's like, and then in the midst of it, some bitch wants to scam us on this damn RV. And then you can only imagine, as like, I get very maternal. So it's very much like, how the food may have came late, but the kids don't know why the food's late, but the mama's
Right.
just like, oh my God, I didn't get my check, so I had to go out
Right.
and like maybe prostitute to get the money. It's like, you don't tell the kids how it happened, but it happened. And so I'm making do with the responsibility, because I told them that I wouldn't forsake them. So whatever that meant, if that means me using my unemployment, or that, because it's given from the government anyway. So it's like I feel very, very blessed, and like, there's this high level of abundance that is given. People have looked out for me during this pandemic. So, and it's like, they believe in me. They have shown me that they believe in me. And
Right.
so, but I've had my own personal problems. Like,
You've had your own demons, you've had your own issues.
well, the thing is, people don't know that I have PTSD, and that I have borderline personality disorder, and and I have what they call a cyclothalmia, which is like where you have a fluctuation of your moods.
What's it called?
Cyclothalmia.
Wow, never heard of that.
And so this, so I deal with my own shit, but I find that because I have this high level of rejection that I felt from the community for so long, and always was like yearning for like connection with maybe my family, I found to put energy into something that was bigger than me.
Absolutely.
Put energy into to a community that I know is like me, and it's like, that's why I do what I do, because it's important, because I'm a person of color, and if I express male, my life is in danger. If I express female, my life is in danger. So I was like, well, if that's the case, regardless of which way I look at it, my life is in danger, then I want to create something that could outlive me. And so that's why I started to create these opportunities of programs that would help the community in a way. So it's like, I may not know those humans that have received any of those kits, but I know we made a difference in at least 100 humans' lives for those kids. Now and then it's like, now we get to help 3 humans get housed up. Now, however long that happens, then the fact is we still did it, and we were able to
did it.
a form of transformativeness in someone's life.
Who are you partnering with? You have a big wig company that is partnering with you, and you want to talk about that?
Well, so what's really exciting is that I had got approved through Krispy Kreme Donuts
Yes.
to do a fundraiser to raise dough with dough, as they call it. Let's raise some dough. And so I haven't launched it yet, but it's on my website. I have a website, but my website isn't published because I didn't want to be inundated with humans who are looking for services right now, in which we cannot
Provide.
accommodate.
Yeah.
We can't accommodate at this time. So I didn't want to give that. And so I have a partnership with them, but it's over it will be over a 10-day period. So it's basically, once I launch, it's about how many donuts, like a box of a dozen donuts that I would sell in that 10-day period, for $10, and we would split the proceeds. So
Okay.
it would go to any cause or anything that I am like raising money for.
Well, please give us make sure you tell us and, share on social media when that is going to start, so I can share that with the broads as well, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So we want to make sure we can support you for that, because that's amazing. It'll be 10 days and you got to raise as much money as possible. And that money is going to go to the Faith program to buy the house that you want to buy, or the food, or some sort of medical care, transportation, anything to help get these people off the streets, right?
Yes, ma'am. And so just to acknowledge, so for the organization itself, we already have a 15-year veteran accountant her name is Sarah, who is going to be head of the financial department for our organization. And then we're gonna have someone whom is also part of the nonprofit. His name is Kaleem, and he is basically like the chief operating officer of the organization next to me. And so it is in its infancy, but I have a meeting on Thursday with an individual whom is going to help facilitate getting us off the ground, helping us with the SOPs for the nonprofit, the SOPs for group home.
What's an SOP?
A standards of procedures.
Standards of procedures. Okay. I'm learning all these new acronyms, honey, today.
Oh my God. One of my friends said that I should call myself acronym, since because everything I do like has some form of acronym to it. It's very much like the current fundraiser. It's very much open up your heart to help house us.
Yeah.
When HOUSE stands for helping our underserved sisters equally.
Wow. We're talking a lot. I know we should drink my water. I'm like, woo!
And then facilitating, Faith in itself, facilitating access into transformative housing. And then when I was going through my trans experience, my name was going to be Faithlynn Blak, and Blak stands BLAK, which means beauty, love, appreciation, and knowledge. And so it's like with that, that can build a foundation into becoming an inspirational figure. And that's
Okay. Well, and so this journey it's freestanding. It's going to be a long journey for you, but we are going to be here to support you. So I just want to thank you for being incredibly transparent. We won't play on words here, because a lot of people just do not know what's really going on behind the scenes in some other people's lives. And when I met you, I thought you were this beautiful, wonderful, vivacious person. And following you on social media just to see what's going on is incredibly important to us. So I thank you for reaching out to me, because you said, when can I be on your show? And I'm like, okay, because I was taking a hiatus. I was taking a long hiatus because I'm dealing with other things in my other business, which is very successful. So I felt that this is important to talk about. This is important to acknowledge. We're getting, California is slowly opening up again. Los Angeles is slowly open again with outside dining, and we're hopefully going to start indoor dining in a few days. So this is going to give resurrection to the community, resurrection to the economy, to where we can buy things and spend more things and spend money on things that we used to do pre-COVID, and that's with being more charitable. Because more than ever in 2020, people are hurting all over. I don't care if you're gay, straight, binary, whatever. People lost their jobs. People are still homeless. People still have no idea when their next meal is going to be. So you and I are very blessed that we still have a house over our heads and shelter and food in our tummies. But a lot of people can't say that. What were you going to say?
I was just gonna add to that. Like, that's really what also made me want to do more, is because it was hard for me to sit in my abundance here at home, knowing that humans out on the streets were having less than.
Yeah.
And so if for people feel like they want to know more about like making sure that the money is getting there, come hang out with me, come help me work. Like, they can come and see it's used on transportation, getting to and from these humans, because sometimes it's like 6 humans that I'm helping in one day. So you can imagine like going to one encampment, then trying to facilitate two other humans getting to their doctor's appointments. And then if it's like, you know, sending them a car alone and me not being there.
That's right.
These people are in tents. So I have to show up to the tent, you know, and make sure that they're there and take them to their appointment. I have to wait. There's just so much that's involved behind the scenes. It's not as easy as people think. It takes, transportation is extremely expensive.
Extremely expensive.
It's probably the biggest expense that I've had since been doing this, you know, and trying to facilitate keeping people afloat,
Right.
people that I don't even know.
As we close, how do people contact you, and how do people how can people donate money to your cause?
So currently they can donate on my Instagram page, which lists the financial platforms, as well as the link to my current fundraiser that we are doing. And eventually, once I launch my website, then you will be able to donate directly on the website as well. But currently, Rise of Faith on my Instagram is where you can find me. You can also Rise of Faith, and you can also email me at experiencingfaith@gmail.com. And that's another way that you can email me and want to know more about what I'm doing. I mean, and I want to apologize to those that are listening that may have emailed me about like volunteer services. I am in need of an assistant. I am in need of somebody who does social media. I am in need of somebody who is great with grant writing. I'm in need of people in their expertise. If you have ran a nonprofit and you want to offer your expertise so that you can be part of an amazing team as it's in its infancy, please reach out to me, because I'm in need of other humans that can share this vision that I have and want to be supportive.
That's good to know. Is that on a volunteer basis right now? Because again, you're building the company, you're building it. So are they volunteering their time to do that for you?
Currently, yes, it's on volunteer basis, but I know that the plan is to be in a place to where financially that people we can pay for them.
Absolutely.
May I add one more thing? For those out there that really want to help and want to find a bigger impact, you know, if you have access to properties, buy homes that you can donate. If there's 15 passenger vans or cars that you can donate, yes, or like retail spaces, if you can donate retail spaces so that we can turn them into like our own Goodwill, where we can have spaces. If you know humans out there that work in the industry, we need human hair wigs, brand new makeup for these women. We need clothes, we need brand new shoes.
Oh, I have the makeup. Oh, okay. I can definitely donate you some makeup, honey. Unused, brand new.
They need that. I want to create a store. I want to create a store for them.
Wigs galore as well.
Human hair. I want to make sure that they know it's human hair.
Excuse me. Well, mine's synthetic. I have all my synthetic wigs. All my sisters.
Oh my God, you're such a rich woman, honey. Girl, you better grab you some human hair wigs on that lovely skin of yours. You know, I mean, we're not mad at no synthetics. I mean, but when you're out there trying to serve it in the heat, honey, synthetics.
It's hot. Trust.
Hello. You need something cool, mama. You always need human hair.
Honey, she's felting. She spelts in the summertime with those wigs.
Oh my God. That's why you go to human.
So I want to say thank you, Faith, so much for gracing your presence on our show and being actually our second show for the year, and explaining to us exactly what your goal is for this year and how we can really, truly make a difference to all humans. So I want to say thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to you broads for chiming in and listening too. We will be back with another episode soon. And as always, I want to say thank you for listening to Abroad.